Welcome to the Sock Blank Special, everyone. I am Rebecca from ChemKnits, and today we are going to do some really fun dyeing of sock blanks live. So sock blanks are these pre-knit pieces of fabric that then you can dye in many different ways. But the best part about these knit pick sock blanks is that they have two 50-gram balls of yarn that are knit together. So however we dye it, we will end up with two identical, okay, sorry, I guess the connection went bad for a minute. However we dye it, we will get two identical skeins of yarn, and that, so you can do any kind of random pattern or whatever you want and then end up with identical socks or mittens or whatever you might care about. So these are the sock blanks that I'm going to use today, and I believe that I have a link to them, my Knit Picks affiliate link, in the video description, and they're 20% off right now, and you can get free shipping if you spend over $75 at Knit Picks through tonight. This week there's going to be tons of examples. The first video came out this morning, and then every day I'm going to have a new sock blank episode. I have purchased for myself a knitting machine, like a kids crank knitting machine that I use to make my own blanks, but they aren't 2 strands at a time, and they end up being really long tubes, but I normally use them for worsted weight yarn because it takes a long time to hand crank a blank, which is why it's worth, I think, buying them. So anyway, the yarn base in these blanks is 75% superwash merino and 25% nylon. Oh, you did a double one on your Michaels knitting machine? Yeah. You probably have to go slow. I did a fingering weight one once, but the machine kept, and it wasn't even double, but the machine kept catching. I found that I have better success with the worsted weight yarn in the Singer machine that I have. All right, so we're gonna do 2 blanks today. The first I pre-soaked in just tap water, and then I sort of put it through my salad spinner to remove a lot of the excess water. When I'm dip dyeing, and I'm gonna dip dye it. When I'm dip dyeing, I don't always worry about removing as much water as I do when I'm hand painting, because if you have too much of your pre-soaked water in the fiber when you're hand painting, then that limits how much dye you can add before the dye things start getting messier. So that's why, from a suggestion from one of you, I now use my salad spinner almost religiously for these projects. The goal today is to create, on this first blank, is to create a really fun gradient. And we are going to do that by using 2 different colors of Wilton's food coloring. As I put on my gloves so I don't get stained, we are going to dip dye this blank twice, once in Kelly Green and once in Wilton's Royal Blue. I have already mixed up a 1/4 teaspoon of each of these colors in 1/2 cup of water. And I did this ahead because sometimes it takes a little while for the gel to dissolve. It is my pleasure to do this for you guys. So I've done a lot of dip dyeing videos, and I have one on the channel where I dip dyed the same yarn twice, in 2 different times. My plan is to add one of these colors, and I haven't decided which one I'm starting with, to the pot, dip dye the blank, let the blank cool, and while it's cooling, we'll do another little experiment. And then once it's cool enough for me to handle it, then we will dip dye it again from the other end, so we end up with a really vibrant blank going from like a green to more of a blue. So that is my goal with this experiment today. And I think I want to start with the blue today. All right, so in this pot I have 8 cups of water, and I brought it to a boil and then reduced the heat so we're simmering. And here's my vinegar. My big tub is starting to run low. All right, and I'm gonna add, I'm debating now. I think I'm gonna add 3 I'm debating between 2 and 3 tablespoons. I do 2 a lot, but 3 might help the blues bind faster. So that's why I think I might go ahead and add, all right, it's gonna be about 2.5, I think. That's a nice little number. And I'll try to dip dye from this other end so that way you guys will be able to see me. And, oh good, I'm glad you guys made it. Yeah, the Tuesdays and Wednesdays during the day are the best times for me to do a live stream. But so here, oh dear, I must have had a little bit of stuff on here. I stained my blank a little bit already. Whoops, this is why I normally do, even with gloves, wash my hands. But it'll be fine. That can be the green end. So this is the size of the pre-knit blank. And unlike the ones I make on my knitting machine, these ones are flat. So if that is something that makes a difference. But all right, I've got my dye and we can start dip dyeing. So I'm gonna add the dye and stir it up. So this is the Wilton's Royal Blue, which has some, I believe, and I'll double check in a minute, red number 3, a little bit of red, but mostly blue. All right, and let's start dip dyeing. I really like the royal blue color. And I'm doing this really slowly today. A lot of times I try to go fast because I want to make sure that I get coverage and bright coverage if I'm trying to break food coloring on as much of the yarn as possible. But I want, I guess I should have marked my approximate halfway point. I want to get a nice cool gradient, but I want, it to get paler as we go through. And if there's a question that I miss, I will check the, I'll check the comments after I add the whole thing. Eek. But you can see already we're getting a nice gradient. How is this one made? This blank is a commercial blank from Knit Picks. It is using their Stroll fingering weight yarn, and I'm assuming that they have it manufactured on some kind of knitting machine. It's getting kind of heavy, but we can see our gradient forming. Blues are a little harder for this kind of thing because they just absorb so much slower than reds that it's a bit harder to do a gradient. It takes more muscles, but you can almost see a hint of the red at the beginning, and so that's kind of nice. Blue is one of my favorite colors, and this is one that I like a lot. But so I'm just, and each time you can see that it's even getting paler and paler, because each time I add just a hint more, and oops, already we're running low on the color in here. So you can see the water, maybe I can carefully bring this closer. The water still looks very blue, but on the yarn itself, that is pretty, see, very pale, very pastel. And I think I'm going to try to keep that last bit from going in at all, but I still want to, since there is still blue in there, I just want to dip up and down. Whew! It gets heavy. Alrighty. Okay, I think I'm going to remove this now. So normally I like to try to exhaust, and you can see that we have a gorgeous gradient here. Normally I like to try to exhaust the dye completely. Where did I get my knitting machine? I bought mine from Amazon. I will drop a link to it on the video once the replay is up. I'm trying to get a lot of water out because that'll help this cool off faster, so then we can do the other, so then we can dip dye it in the green as well. But let me just arrange this a bit and see if you guys can see this bit of purple that we have on the end. Does that read as purple to you guys at all? There's very, very little red in here, but I promise that there is some pink. I did a gradient on I attempted to do a gradient on one of the videos coming up, but I think I used so much food coloring that the gradient exists. It's just very, very subtle. One end is a hair darker than the other. I think I just really overloaded it with the food coloring. And so it's still cool, but I learned something. So that's why I made sure to go extra, extra slow today. But now this just needs to wait and cool so that we can dip dye the other end into the green and get a gradient, I guess, from like a green with teals in the middle and then this blue purple on one end. And I think that that will look pretty cool. Before I attempt to flip the camera around to do the next one, let me just see. You could do a flat double strand on the knitting machine. You'd have to start slow. Yeah, the reason why I do tubes, so technically the Singer knitting machine I have, you can do a flat blank. You can crank it one way and then stop and then crank it the other way. And that would take a lot longer than just cranking continuously. I timed myself once and found that it took, I think, about 22 minutes for me to make a worsted weight blank on the knitting machine, with me cranking as hard as the machine would really allow. But let me find quickly the knitting machine. And so I've found, okay, so this is the exact one. We'll see if it lets me add this link into the chat. I think it did. Yeah, so that's my Amazon affiliate link to the Singer knitting machine. It looks like they have an updated one with more feet, but this is at least the picture, the exact model that I have myself. Okay, and so now I am going to attempt, yes, to flip you guys around. So we're letting this cool. We still have a tiny bit of blue, but that'll be really cool with, that will be really, really cool with our purple. Okay, the problem is this is so high up that I can't really see. So I'm gonna need to turn my laptop so that way I'll be able to see if I'm in frame. All right, so that was our dip dye blank. The second blank that I've got, I kind of want to do like a tie-dye type thing. So I've got a dry blank that's here in the container. I've realized that I show you guys them mostly wet in the videos, so I wanted you to see what it looks like dry and how pretty it is. When I'm hand painting, oh, it does fit exactly when it's non-wet. When I've been hand painting in these videos, I usually block it out a bit so it's stretched out kind of like that on the counter. It helps it fit a bit better. But I'm going to remove my gloves right now. Because my hands are getting a little sweaty and it'll be a little easier. So in this cup, I have dissolved between 1/2 and 3/4 of a teaspoon of Wilton's violet food coloring. And I don't want to just dip dye this, but I kind of want to fold it up in a way and then use the rubber bands and do something kind of tie-dyed. Initially I thought that I would I might do something like a twist and twist around, but I wanted to do something a tiny bit more regular, so it would be easier for me to replicate. So I think what I want to do is do a bit of a fan fold on this and then roll it up. So yeah, maybe thirds is good. Okay. And then I'm going to roll this up. Ooh. Do kind of, it's a little, it would be a little easier to manipulate this. Maybe I do want to make it thinner. Nah, I guess this is okay. So now I'm going to roll this up. So it's been, oh, interesting. That's not, it's different than what and thicker than I thought what I was going to do, but that's okay. And now when I put it in to the pot, I'm going to put it in, you know, one side, and it'll go down and we'll kind of get breaking up, but there'll also be some breaking towards the center. I do think that I don't want it to be, let's fold this so it's like in thirds and then one more, because I want there to kind of be a little more surface area, because I know we'll get some wider sections towards the center there. That's a little more what I had in mind. Let's see if we have any large rubber bands. I haven't done one of the spirals that the tie-dye spirals that I like to do with you guys yet. I've done some other tie-dye techniques, but I need to, let's do this in, I guess, sixths-ish. All right. And I'll unravel this before I sign off, assuming that it cools off. But this is, and I think, okay, lower. I can't see the phone. So this is what we are going to try to dye, and it's dry, and so my plan is to just place it in the pot like this and then slowly press it down. And so hopefully we'll see some really, really cool breaking. That's the plan, at least. All right. Let's flip you back around and bring you back over. All right. Okay, this is actually getting cooler already, but let's go ahead and do the second one so we can exhaust some more of this blue. So I'm not going to add any more vinegar. There's already plenty of vinegar in the pot. But actually, I should quickly check and see. Yeah, 2 strands of fingering for socks. I mean, that's what these commercial blanks do. So I forget what, I mostly buy Stroll yarn on by the bulk order, so I'm not entirely sure what the cost is per skein, but the sock blank is more than double because I think of, you know, the additional work going into it. So if you're making stuff for yourself, then I think it's absolutely worth getting one of the crank machines. If you think you're going to make a couple, then that would be worthwhile. It is, the Singer knitting machine does get a little loud, unfortunately. So it can be hard to do that while you watch a movie or something. All right, I'm going to set you aside, grab another bowl. And this time, I have no idea what to expect. I have dip dyed blanks that I've made myself before, and those came out beautiful. The Broken Violet one that I then knit with my DNA cable is just one of my favorites ever. So we've got a lot of dye in here. A lot of dye. I'm going to add it to the pot. Whew. And if you're just tuning in, the pot started off with 8 cups of water and about 2.5 tablespoons of vinegar. And this is our dry blank that I folded in thirds and then in half. And let's, which side is that? That's the side with all of the ends. Let's add it. Haha! I really wish I could zoom in. But we're just slowly, I think it's just gonna slowly sink. That is cool! And look at the blue coming through the center. Although now the dye is coming over the top, but there was blue. Oh, did you see that? Did you see the blue just kind of like sneak up through? If I had done, if I had the water level start off lower, then, if the water level started off lower, then it would have like soaked through and been blue and really cool. Oh, I am so curious about what is, all right, the water is still very, very, very purple. It's possible that we may not see a lot of breaking, that we might see a lot of purple and white. That happened on a, what did I do? Because I also used a lot of dye and I twisted a skein. But I expect that the color will not absorb evenly to this. So, oh, I'm just curious. What are we gonna get? Still very purple. Trying hard not to touch it too much. Maybe we're starting to get bluer. As I said, there is a lot of food coloring there. Oh, I'm excited. But this is a nice thing about the sock blank, because since there are the 2 strands of yarn going through there, however it turns out, it can turn into something identical. And yeah, I wanted to give a sock blank a shot tying it up. There is a video where I legit, using a tie-dye kit, tie-dyed a blank that I hand knit. So it was like about a 12-inch by 12-inch square, and I tied it up in the spiral, and then I kind of like did wedge dye applications. This was not pre-soaked. This one was dry. I thought it would be easier for me to fold it up dry, and I didn't want to really like block it as I was deciding how to fold it. But you certainly could have done it, you could have started off with a wet pinwheel or cinnamon bun. I'm so curious. So you do see that there is some red that has crashed out. Well, it might be a little harder for you to see along the surface. And there's still just, I used a lot of dye. I wanted a lot of color. Oh man. Okay, now, ooh, look at that purple. Ooh, the outside is getting a lot of everything. Okay, I'm not gonna touch it. I'm gonna set a timer. I don't know what that was. I'm gonna set a timer, and hopefully all of the yarn will absorb, or all of the dye will absorb to the yarn at some point. So then we would be able to use our pot again with the Kelly green. But, well, we'll have to see. Because this is going pretty slow. You've seen me dip dye, stroll, fingering yarn into Wilton's Violet. Not quite this much dye though. Maybe about half as much, but that's still, well, maybe we're looking more blue now. Let me get a paper towel. That would be a better color check. There's still, well, there's some red that's broken out, and you can see that it just breaks on the paper towel. Yeah, so this one is a lot more like the, oh, okay, but that's from the paper towel. This one's a lot more like the cake dyeing. When I dye a cake of yarn, let's see. Okay, so you can see here kind of the particles of the pink that have broken out, and that the dye right now is red. So the soluble dye has absorbed. That's what I was curious about. Let me check and see if there were some questions that I missed. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, that blue that came through. I really wish that I was doing this with less water. I guess I'm gonna have to try it again. I'm just checking to see if there's anything that I missed. I don't think so. So let's see, what other techniques did I do? This morning, the Dye Pot Weekly episode came out, and I spray painted sock blank using the Wilton color mist sprays, and that was awesome. I almost was late starting the stream because I was trying to look up kids airbrush kits to see if there was one that I could refill with my own dye or something. But I did discover that they actually sell airbrush food coloring specifically for like professional bakers airbrush kits. Those are a little more expensive than what I would be looking for as a, home dyer. So I don't think I would necessarily get one of those, but I forget how much the color mist sprays are a piece. More expensive than as a toy than just the icing color, and one of these can dye many, many skeins. I think I was able to use one bottle of black color mist in I guess a total of 4 different skeins, but it wasn't ever using full coverage of them. So, all right, it's a lot of color, a lot of color. Maybe I should start making the half of a teaspoon per 100 grams sort of a limit. I did, so in one, I mentioned before that I was doing a dip dyeing, and it was one color, and I was like, all right, I want this color to be intense. And I think I just used way too much food coloring there as well. Because my gradient did not really read on camera very well, and you can kind of, like, in person it reads, but ultimately, like, you might not even notice that there was a gradient. Sometimes things I try work great. Sometimes things I try are a little unsure. Do I think wet yarn absorbs color slower for breaking than dry yarn? So I found that using dry yarn, you get a less even absorption of color. So when I want to break and do kettle dyed, have a true kettle dyed effect, I try to start with dry yarn because it takes a little longer for the dye to reach all of the yarn. And so then you will see a little more breaking or get a little more just subtle tonal variations in the yarn. If you want to get a solid color, using pre-soaked yarn is a better way to get more even coverage. So for example, with this gradient that we did earlier, if I had started, there's still going to be some tonal variation along the length of it. You can see that, you can sort of see that the color is darker in the middle and a little lighter towards the outside. But I think that if it had started dry, some of those variations would be even more pronounced. But the good news is that this has cooled off considerably. So as soon as I'm done with this, maybe I'll add more water, or at least I'll start heating up a second pot in case this one takes a while. I had already pre-measured out another 8 cups of water just because it's faster. Again, I don't really care about there being color remaining in there. Although I'm not always a fan of the crashed out pinks. Because even though they're crashed out, they will stain the yarn. But in just like a spot or something. So, guess I'm stuck to the spoon. I just wet and rinsed off my measuring spoon. But, all right, I will check that color again in a second. But where? Oh. Here's my vinegar. Let's start heating up that back one. So I'll also do, I think, 2.5 tablespoons of white vinegar, approximately. Oh, I'm glad you guys like watching it. Have I ever used a blank and dyed it in various glasses of dye? No. So color, in general, I found that color doesn't wick up that far. I mean, when you use a lot of food coloring like I did here, it can take a while. Yeah, that's really, really dark. You can see if I pour it that it's definitely blue. But I think there is a limit to how much food coloring you can use on yarn. And I think that I might be approaching it. But also a lot of the fiber here is just inaccessible. So this is I guess the second time this week that I've started to approach the limit to how much food coloring you might want to use with one skein of yarn. But I haven't used yarn like hanging into 2 different containers of color at the same time. I know some people do that when they're hand dyeing self-striping yarns, and you'll have like mini skeins that you are connected in many like mason jars. But they'll usually kind of massage some of the color up for the transitions with their hands. It would be really cool if the color wicked up like a straw, but when I was dip dyeing, the color only really traveled up a noticeable difference when I submerged it into the dye pot. So if there was going to be a lot more wicking, then we might have seen some of the color come up further. But you can see when I did, like, I think it depends on like the volume of water and the color. When I was doing some dyeing some stripes onto a blank in an episode coming up towards the end of this week, I used both a needle nose squeeze bottle and then also a foam brush. And the colors from the squeeze bottle spread out a lot more, and the brush things stayed basically where I put them. And I think that has to do with the volume of water that was there. So a long roundabout way for saying I haven't entirely tried it. I would like to do it to see. And some colors definitely could wick up. But in my experience, they also just might bind to the yarn before they can travel more. So what I'm curious about is if the dye is going to be able to travel through the yarn to get to the inside of our little friend over here. Because if you've watched some of my Broken Violet stuff before, you would know that this should have absorbed by now. The Rebecca dye threshold. Yeah. I think that it would work if if this was totally unwound, that we would be able to get the color to absorb. But hey, I have to push the limits a bit, right? No, when I added so that's been, I think I said a 10-minute timer. When I added the dye to mix it, I was like, oh, that dissolved really, really fast. Gee, maybe I didn't actually do half a teaspoon. Why don't I add a bit more dye? But let's just remove this for a second. Let's see. So we've got, I mean, that is a deep, deep, deep purple. That is a deep color. One of the deepest I've ever gotten with food coloring. But if you look closely around the rubber bands, I see some almost white. So I'm very curious how far this penetrated. And so if we look at the pot, there's a lot of blue in there, but actually most of the food coloring is in the yarn. Okay, so we see color on here and a lot of the pink that has kind of absorbed, but it's pretty pale compared to where we were even a little bit ago. But I do think I want some more to absorb. So I am going to carefully, oh, rubber band, put you back in for a little while longer. Do you guys, while we're waiting on, actually I might also swap. Okay, put these on low. I might swap these pots. There we go. So that way when that one heats up, we can do our other dip dyeing. Sometimes limits are meant to be pushed. Absolutely. Okay, so I think I'm actually going to quickly put this, yeah, why not? I'll flip you guys around again. We'll put this through the salad spinner. And come back over to my little station here. Okay. But also then I can really like arrange this so you can see. There's still, I don't think there's a lot of water in there. Yeah, but I like mixing the food coloring colors really concentrated and then using those to hand paint. I made some colors for the Stockling Special, and I think I had a total volume of 2.5 cups of water and probably around 2 tablespoons total, or 2 teaspoons total of food coloring amongst the 5 colors. But I dyed 2 stock blanks completely with these, and then I had enough to do some space dyeing with a 3rd. So that was nice. But okay, so see, the water that came out was pretty clear because the dye has bound to our blank. Now with all acid dyes, including food coloring, you can get some bleeding when you add things to heat. So I've seen this myself when I tried to when I was felting an oven mitt that I made with yarn. But see, there's our pretty gradient number 1. But I saw that some of the colors bled a little bit when I put the hand-dyed 100% wool yarns in boiling water for a while to try to felt it. Yep, that's the best part about these blanks. It's funny because I don't think the labels even indicate, the label doesn't even really say anything about the blank being done with 2 strands at a time. I mean, it's on their website, and I've unraveled these, so I know that that's what it is, but I thought that it was funny that that was not on the label itself. But I think that this is super pretty. Yeah, but I think that being able to dye, I mean, there are a lot of independent dyers out there that have shops and then dye, you know, multiple skeins in one colorway. And that's not something that is one of, I wouldn't say that it's one of, I mean, it's not something that I've really attempted very much because I'm more, I've done a lot more of saying, okay, what different ways can I apply color to the yarn and what kind of effects do we get versus trying to get multiple skeins that are, you know, in the same dye lot per se. But that's why these blanks are really awesome. And I think that it would be fun to look at more batch dyeing of skeins in the future. And even the sweater's worth, I'm still, you know, trying to come up with a good plan to collaborate with someone on that. But I think that these are really pretty. And it's gonna almost be a shame to add the green because this is so pretty. But I intend to do sort of the same thing and start really, really slowly with the white end when I dip into the green. And then as I go up, I will reserve, you know, a bit of the blue to keep on its own. And I need to duck down to see that question. What are my favorite food colors to achieve neon colors, like neon green and neon pink. There's a dip dyed pink that is on the channel that I did the other day. It came out, I think, on Friday. And for that I used, I think, a packet or two of pink lemonade and then a lot of McCormick's neon pink. Let me see. I have it over here. So this is the food coloring that I had used. I haven't, and it's been requested, and I have plans to do hand painting. I want to hand paint some yarn with just these colors to show off the neonness, because I've used these in mixtures with other colors a lot, but I don't think I've ever really used them on their own. Maybe just the blue and but yeah, otherwise I've always mixed it with something else. So this might be a way to help, but yeah. For multiple skeins, wouldn't you have to dip dye simultaneously to get an identical dye lot? Probably. Even when I dip dye simultaneously, especially if I'm breaking a color, they are close, the tones are close, but there's variations between skeins. So if you were gonna dip dye, say 2 or 4 skeins at a time, whatever you were gonna knit with it, I might want to alternate skeins every couple of rounds, because there might be subtle differences that would be noticeable, say if you're making a scarf when you switch from one skein to the next. But the tones would be the same. It's just I guess one of the things with, especially with, I think with hand painting yarn, I would have an easier time making the colors, like making 2 skeins that are 100% like the same dye lot. But I think that it's, yeah, I think it's just, I mean, at least for me, a bit harder. But with certain, if you have certain equipment and stuff, or you create, ooh, I should make a, I'd need a bigger pot. I could make like a rig to like lower things down evenly. I'm already designing, Keith and I are designing a PVC pipe warp board, which will basically be like a square with then pegs on it, so that way I can wind a bunch of mini skeins to do self-striping yarn. And so if this plan comes to fruition, then I will also make a video on that, so that way you can make one yourself. But I don't want to spend, PVC pipe is a great tool. Let's check on, all right, so there's definitely color, but it's less. I think I'm gonna have to, when we remove that yarn, I'm gonna have to get some yarn to put in there so we can see just how much color was left over. Oh, I could use hangers? Yeah. Hey, I don't mind. I love suggestions, seriously. This, you know, I do a lot of things just kind of like off the cuff as an experiment, and then sometimes I try to replicate the things that I've done. And I love seeing when you guys replicate what I've done. But the suggestions are phenomenal, and I appreciate it so much. Okay, let's turn off the heat on the back. I'm gonna turn off the timer so it doesn't beep while I'm dip dyeing. I'm gonna also show off my sweet Wellesley mug that I was given through a alumni gift swap. Yeah, Wellesley's the best. Anyway, all right, this is completely cool, and I was almost going to start dip dyeing in plain water, and I should shift you so that way you can see the pot. Sorry, guys. What can I say? It's the holidays. Oh, gloves. I haven't tried out, I got that soap that's supposed to help get dye off of skin, but I would like to not need to use it. Yeah, I love doing these live streams with you guys. I have so much fun. Okay, I'm gonna reduce the heat. Oh, I forgot. I wanted to check the ingredients. So the royal blue had red number 3 and blue number 1, but obviously a lot more blue than red. And the Kelly green is yellow number 5 and blue number 1. So that's what we've got there. All right. Making sure we're all stirred. All right. Okay, I've got my tongs. And let's kind of got the ends. All right, where's my halfway point? Okay, and we're just gonna slowly. And so the technique for dip dyeing really is ultimately super up to you. You could go all in really, really fast. You could, slowly go up and down. I think it ultimately depends a lot on what you are trying to achieve and how tired your arm might get. One reason why I tend to do slowly going in and then slowly increase the amount that I dip in to the pot is that, and we are really curled up. Oh, well, I think that'll be cool. One of the reasons why I do that versus the reverse is just because the yarn could get really hot. All right. And each time I add a little more. Since it's wet, it is heavier. But you can see that our gradient is showing. Where is I'm curious about the color. Okay, we're very green still. Eek. Now, see, this is where I can start using the tongs to help me a bit. It's a lot harder to tell this time because since it's not white, how pale things are versus how much less is showing just purely because of the amount of blue that was already there. Ooh, I'd like to I need to do some more over dyeing of different colors. Oops, don't want to block too much. Okay, the color is starting to clear a bit. Here is, I think, what I want to do. There we go. See, about a half teaspoon of total food coloring is a good amount. This is a good workout. Whoop, but can you see? Oh, oops. Oops. Okay, but you can do. I'm gonna show you. See how much the color is clearing. Where is the reduce the heat? The other thing with these blanks is they stretch out a bit as you're dipping, but I think we're pretty good. Oof. We are heavy. Oh, you guys! I mean, I know this is just kind of like our first look, but check that out. That is a gorgeous, gorgeous gradient and vibrant, vibrant colors. Whew! I mean, that's special, isn't it? I haven't checked, and because I realized that it was curled up a bit as I was doing this. And of course we're hot. I mean, yeah, there's good color all the way through, but someone asked about white remaining when on these skeins, and there's not as much white, but you will see little, I think you can see a tiny bit over here, some little variation on the strands as you unravel, because you get more dye to the outside of a knit stitch than the inside of the knit stitch. So you can see, even if it's not something that breaks, you might get some like tonal variation, and that's another reason to love a blank. Yeah, so this is actually looking pretty teal over there. And, oh, I did turn off the rear. Okay, that is a lot paler. But you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go grab, I think, a skein of yarn and then see, you know, just how much dye is in these residuals. Although, actually, before I do that, so I wanna be able to open this up at some point. Hey, that water coming off of it doesn't look, okay, it's a little blue. But, ha-ha, a little tie-dyed blank. Oh, and look what we've got here. Purple, blue, and green, my favorite colors. It's almost like, well, I was picking things. Okay, I'm in a weird mood. I'm happy for the holidays. All right, I'm gonna run and grab a skein of yarn so we can use in these leftover dye bats and see, probably get a pastel. See, I really am going on the fly, making things up as I go along. All right. I don't like letting dye go to waste, so let's do some bare yarn. Okay. This is Knit Picks Wool of the Andes yarn. It is 100% wool, worsted weight, non-superwash, and it's dry, obviously. So I went and grabbed it from upstairs. And so let's just, I guess since we're dip dyeing today, look how teal that is. Sorry guys. That is really, really pretty. Look at that, it's like a nice mint. That is really cool. I know we've done, like, when I've dip dyed with Kelly Green, we were like, do greens break? And looking at this, I would say yeah. I mean, I know that, so the wool of the Andes is different, obviously, from the stroll, and they take up colors slightly differently, but those are pretty different. Yeah, so I think I'm just gonna do about half and then let it cool a bit so I can touch it and then put it in the other one. Pastels can be harder to do with food coloring because one drop of food coloring is often really, really intense. But so what I like to do is I like to use, I'll do a dilution. So in order to get, and I think the video coming out tonight, I do a mint green. But I made a green with, actually I think I used like blue and an orange, but then I diluted it a bunch because it was still too bright. So I needed like less than 1 drop of food coloring to get the color that I wanted. And now you can see as I, even with my dry yarn, dip more, there's barely any color left in there. Even though the pot is reading as a blue. You know, so this much blue, can you even see? Well, eek, I need a, okay. I've got a, eek. On the fly, right? I need a container to put the yarn. So this was the residual from the Kelly green, and I'll just let it cool a little bit and then do the other pot. And heat this up. But I just wanted to show you guys. This is the you can barely see the blue that's left that basically reads as almost nothing on the yarn. And so that's why, like, when I'm rinsing yarn at the end to get all the excess dye out, sometimes you'll get wash water that looks like that, and it can feel really frustrating. But ultimately, it's really, really not that much food coloring that's in that. Like, you barely, like, that wouldn't stain very much. That is an excellent question. How did I choose the name ChemKnits? So I actually started ChemKnits while I was a graduate student working on my biochemistry PhD. And so, you know, ChemKnits was just literally because I'm a chemist who knits. And it turned out that I think that there's only one other person who has ever used that name. So I was able to get a lot of websites and usernames and stuff. And yeah, it's been great. But I also started the blog. So I do have a PhD in biochemistry. And so I guess some of I don't always do controls with everything, but I started the blog to kind of be like my lab notebook, so I could keep track of, you know, the projects that I did, any modifications I did, how much yarn I used, and then people started finding things useful and asking questions, and I started doing videos. But I think it's funny because if Pinterest and Ravelry existed back in the day, I think ChemKnits is now almost 9 years old. The 9-year birthday is like right before New Year's. If Pinterest and Ravelry existed, or if I knew about them back when I started ChemKnits, I don't know if ChemKnits would have come to be. I actually made like a FileMaker Pro thing to like archive my knitting projects and stuff, which is like kind of silly now. But you know, if I was able to keep track of my projects and put notes on Ravelry, then I probably wouldn't have started the blog. But I'm really glad I did, because then I'm here today making pretty colors with all of you. All right, I'm going to set our pretty blank aside and see if this is cool enough for me to dip dye the other end. Not quite. It's cool enough for me to squeeze it without burning myself. But, alright, I do want to let this cool a little bit longer. So that way I can hold on to it for a while. Let's see how warm this guy is. Actually, this isn't bad. I should be able to open this up in a little bit. So, don't know how much breaking we should expect to see here. I don't know if any of you remember when I did I twisted a skein, and then I put the whole twisted skein inside Wilton's Violet, almost expecting to see some colors and some cool breaking. But instead I saw a lot of purple and white, because I think that the dye just couldn't access part of the yarn. So I'm very curious what we're going to see here. But maybe it's worth just sticking to a half teaspoon of Wilton's Violet and not pushing much beyond that. I will absolutely keep making these. So I've filmed through episode 20 of Dye Pot Weekly. Episode 14 came out this morning. So we've got videos through the end of January ready to go. And there's still, this week there's going to be so many Sock Blank special episodes. So if you need a break to escape a little bit around the holidays, you can come and just hang out with me. I'll come live tomorrow at 2 Eastern. So that way I will unravel, not one of the blanks from today, but I will unravel a blank. And then, yeah, I have plans. I'm absolutely committed to completing 35 episodes of Dye Pot Weekly from the Kickstarter campaign I did. But I hope to do like a video a week for the next year. So that is my hope and my resolution. And I need you guys to help keep me accountable. And I also then might need you guys at some point to help me destash some of my yarns. The Kickstarter campaign used up most of, ooh, we got like a nice gradient. Very subtle, but all right, let's see this residual. Ooh, oh, because there's all that pink that crashed out too. So we're gonna get some purples in here. This water level is a lot lower, so this is a bit more challenging. Yeah, there's a lot of pink that's sticking to it because so I found with my dip dyeing that when there's pink that remains, it will sometimes stain and then sometimes come off a bit. But I gotta, haha. So that's actually kind of cool. Because I found like it crashes out, but then some of it might be able to go back in. Just trying to get all this wet so we get a little color everywhere. Well, but that's cool. This is like a unicorn yarn. I do like unicorns. I don't know if you guys saw the unicorn balloon that I have in my living room. So this is mostly, some of that pink might go away, but let's try to add. It's in the first ever dip dyed Broken Violet video I did. I put the yarn in the pot at the end, and there was some of you could see the crashed out pink around the edge of the pot. And so some of that got on the wrong part of the yarn, and so then I was sad. But yeah, back to what I was saying before, I have no plans to stop making videos anytime soon. With my youngest now in preschool as well, I have dedicated time to focus on dyeing yarn and making beautiful things and sharing that with all of you. I'm not sure if I'm hoping to do a video a week the next year. I don't know how long. I've been doing 2 videos a week since I started the Dye Pot Weekly Kickstarter campaign back in September. But I'm hoping to do a lot. Okay, so there's still a tiny bit of blue left, but it's heavy and my arm is getting a little tired. And so let's put this in here to cool, but check it out. You can't really see the blue because it's a bit hidden, but we go from like a pink to a blue and then this green. Very unicorn mane-ish. And my heat is off. So now, all right, I think I'm gonna flip us. Where's the, oh, I'm so glad that you like it. Wait, okay. My phone doesn't always like the gloves. Okay, this is where I really wish that I could, actually I can lower this. I wish that I could zoom with the phone and stuff. Okay. Actually, can I? No, I don't think I can. Okay. So first let's take a closer look at our gradient, which is cooling off nicely. I will come back to do a, once it's dry, I'll come back and do kind of a conclusion video like I like to do. Oh, it's looking a lot darker. I don't know how to change the brightness on here right now. I'm gonna remove my gloves. I don't know if there's a way. Yeah, but it looks a lot darker on the YouTube screen than it does here. I see more of a really bright, the green looks really, really bright in person as well. I guess maybe if I hold it up, you can get a better sense of the brightness. But yeah, I'll film a conclusion. Oh, it's gorgeous. I mean, I love deep, deep jewel tones as well. Those are all some of my favorites. But all right, let's make a little bit of space. So I did cover, even though I'm not hand painting today, I covered the work surface with some plastic wrap. So that way we could, whoop, that's hot, that's warm, add stuff. Okay, I just wanted, let's peek in. You guys, look at that. Oh, this is gonna be cool. Who's excited? Who's excited? I wish I could take a picture of this like on its own to do a before and after, but I mean, I'm on, my phone is right here. Okay. Oh, Callum, happy birthday tomorrow. Yes, you can get a shout out. Okay. Oh, ooh. Oh man. So, whoa. Look at these. Before we unwrap, check out those marks from the rubber bands. And, okay, I'm going to remove the phone from the tripod for a minute so I can try to bring you down. There we go. Check out those lines. That is so cool. I mean, those are going to come out as specs. That is just so unbelievably cool. Whoa. Okay, and while I'm here, let's come up and, yeah, there's a slightly different angle of our gradient. I should have brought down some of my lighting stuff. Oh, have a good day at work. Thanks for joining. Okay, let's start unwrapping. Okay, so on one side of our folds, let's start there. So this is going to be fun. We'll be able to oh, you guys. Okay, we're going to be able to do a bunch of unwrapping here. Okay, so first, this was all one continuous side of our folds. Oh, it would be good for a mermaid tail blanket. You need a lot. Oh, this on itself is just gorgeous. Okay, and so then let's, all right, let's flip it over and see what the wrong side of this one fold looks like. Okay, so you can see where the color got on either side, and then, interesting, one side, I think one side definitely, to me, is reading, this outer edge is reading more red than the inner edge, but, all right, let's open this up. Oh, I love that this is going to be a highly variegated yarn, but there's going to be intense color all the way through, but it's still a gradient. You'll still see this cool change. These socks would be so awesome. And so it's fun to see how the rubber band started off so sharp on the outside, and slowly that's gotten thicker as we've gone across. And I guess I should remove more of this so that way I can spread out as we unwrap this. And then the other side, let's go kind of this way. So this is the other side of that fold. I mean, I know that this was kind of a regular pattern, but ooh, it's tie-dyed. And on camera, the red doesn't really read as much as it does in person. So, okay, I'm now gonna just open up the entire blank so we can see. And wow. Look at how just these stripes, like here, this one gets progressively bigger, this one gets smaller going that way. It's just so cool. This would be so much fun to knit up. The colors might pool depending on how many stitches you have around in your gauge, but wow. That is so amazing. So there's no question that we have breaking here because we've got all of this pale blue. But the dye predominantly struck to this outer edge. Oh my goodness, you guys. I'm just beside myself. I think that, here, let me kind of take you on a journey over this. This is just so cool. I'm not entirely sure what I expected, but it wasn't this, and I love this. Ooh, that would be cool. I still haven't dyed, and I intend to do I'd like to knit a hat and then dye it and just have it, you know, kind of tie-dyed. I haven't done that yet, but this is really, really exciting to me. And, okay, this had some water in it. Okay, so now I'm going to say goodbye to this one, and I will lay out our gradient now, too. Let me remove some of this water. But, okay, so if I lay this on the counter, are we showing up? Yeah, a bit, you can see a bit brighter. So this one is not mine. This one is going to go to a Kickstarter backer. But I believe I get to unravel this one. I just don't know if it'll be dry by tomorrow when I do the live. When I start doing some live unraveling. The random pattern I dye tomorrow morning is unbelievable, and I cannot wait to unravel it. Okay, so here is our gradient, and oh, it's so pretty. And you can see, like, in here, we definitely have like more teal on the outside and more blue on the inside. So there is going to be variation within, like, the gradient looks pretty even overall right now. But when we unravel this, there's going to be lighter and darker sections within the strand. And when knit up, it's not going to be knit at the same gauge that this blank is. So you'll get a lot of variation within that. This one is very mermaidy. So this is our gradient. I love it. It makes me happy. Are you guys as happy as I am right now? Oh, that's so, so pretty. All right, and then here, you're still warm because you still had a lot of liquid on you. The last yarn that we dyed today. And there's no reason that you have to let all of your dye exhaust. There's no reason, oh, that still has the drip a little bit more. There's no reason why you can't just, you know, leave the leftover dye behind. But if you have yarn to spare, why not make another color? So some of my favorite yarns ever have come about just because I had leftover dye and wanted to use it up. And I really, really did not expect the crashed out pink to bind like this. And I kind of hope it stays when I wash it. But if you haven't, many of you would know by now if you've watched many of my videos that I like to wash the yarns by, and let them cool completely. And then I'll use cool water and a little bit of some dish soap until the water runs clear. And then I will put them back through the salad spinner to remove water and hang them up to dry. And so that is my, and then once they're dry, I will pop back on to share like my final thoughts with all of you. Sometimes I can do that live, but more often than not, I do that, I pre-film it. And so I can use my nicer camera and give you guys a better thought. Oh, thank you. That's a huge compliment, calling me a wizard with sock blanks. Yeah, I'm planning to, so yes, I do still need to wash these. I need to wash them. I mean, I think the reason why I like to wash it is that if there's any excess dye, then it helps dislodge it. And it also helps remove the vinegar smell a bit. These are a little short as a scarf, but unraveling them is so much fun. I'm almost sad that I offered to send some people the complete dyed blank, because I think that the complete dyed blank doesn't always do the resulting yarn justice. Like the Dye Pot Weekly episode this morning, this yarn that came out with these rainbow speckles is stunning. And the blank, the dyed blank itself is kind of like, okay, that's cool, that's spray painted, but then your jaw just drops when you look at it. Yes, you could absolutely graft. I mean, this is unraveled a tiny bit, and you can see some of what I was talking about. So you can see how you will have some variation within the yarn itself. But you could, since there's live stitches on either end of these commercial blanks, you 100% could graft the ends together and turn this into a cowl if that's what you wanted. Or you could knit a cowl and then do the dip dyeing yourself as well. Yeah, I'm glad. It's funny because I always forget that that I don't know. I tend to do a lot of blues and greens and purples because those are my favorite colors. But I love seeing you all react to the pastels really positively. That's very, very exciting for me. And it's not going to be spread out necessarily, but add a little bit of this guy. Oh, and I will be unraveling both of these, I believe. This one is not currently spoken for, so I'm not sure what it'll turn into, but oh, funny. There's this like rogue little stitch thing that is just pink. That's all it took up was pink. So I wonder what kind of fibers that is. They must do something to then make these blanks easily. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah, so tomorrow's live stream will be at 2 p.m. Eastern time, and I'm gonna unravel. The current plan is just one blank. It doesn't take that long to unravel them, but I don't know. It's super dry because it's New England and winter. I don't know if these will be dry in time, but if they are, then maybe oh, wait. I don't know if I'll be able to unravel multiple because I don't have weights to hang skeins after. So when I unravel them, I like to, when I unravel the yarn, I like to wind it onto a niddy noddy, and I make it the niddy noddy 2 feet long instead of 1 foot. And so then I'll show you that technique tomorrow. But I don't know if I can do, I have 2 PVC pipe niddy noddies. Maybe I'll be able to do that with both of them. That's what I'm not sure about right now. Because once it's wound, you can see that the yarn kinks as you unwind it because you're unraveling something. And so then I like to wet the yarn after that, so that way the yarn will relax a bit before just having it in the skeins. So yeah, so I definitely would not be able to do all 3, but if these dry, then maybe I would be able to do 2. I think I have the PVC pipe for that. Note on desk, ChemKnits 2 p.m. Be there. Awesome. Yeah, I think I might already have a scheduled event, but I don't know if you guys can see my scheduled events or not. So yeah, I don't know, but these don't need to be steamed. These have had enough heat already just from dip dyeing. I'm Eastern time. Attach the wet yarn to the niddy noddy, the front handle of your box fan. Oh. I have a whole, actually I can come around here. Let me flip this around. I have a whole, drying rack set up for drying yarn. Okay, but I don't. So there's a delay on the computer, so I don't know if I'm showing up yet. Okay, yeah, here I am. Oh, steam them to straighten it. I don't think that you necessarily need heat again. I just will literally spray water on it to dampen it and then leave it on the Nitty Knotty, and then it's still has some wave to it, but it's a lot straighter than it would have been otherwise. Thank you all for joining me today to hang out while we dyed these sock blanks. I love doing these live streams with you where we dye yarn because you can see today I sometimes make things up as we go along, and then we end up with something really, really beautiful. And, that's all because of you. So thank you so much for tuning in. We'll salt set the yarn. I haven't used a lot of salt in my dyeing yet. I did add some salt with the RIT dyes to the cotton yarn, but I haven't yet really experimented with salt versus no salt to know how that would help. Thank you so much for that question. So these blanks I purchased from Knit Picks. There is a link, right, and I will drop it in the chat as well. There's a link in the video description. So Knit Picks individual skeins of bare yarn, which includes these sock blanks, are 20% off for the month of December. And so if you want to dye along with me, you can, now's a great time to buy them. Normally I think they're about $19.99, and so right now they're 20% off that. Already, there's not a coupon code for the 20%, and these deals have nothing to do with me specifically, I'm just sharing them with you. But also right now, if you spend over $75, you can get free 2-day shipping. So normally, you would still get, if you spend $50 at Knit Picks, you always get free standard shipping. But the expedited shipping that's available through, I think, midnight Pacific time tonight, and the coupon code is on the website they have it on the top, on the main page. But the expedited shipping is so that way things will arrive, I think, in time for Christmas Eve. So, salt for cotton. And I think there was another question, maybe, I don't know. But yes, I did an unboxing last night because with the 20% off bare yarn special, it was funny. I wasn't expecting to place another order, and I was like, all right, Knit Picks, you got me. You're drawing me in. They always have a 20% off a certain line of yarn for the month, but normally when I buy a bulk pack of yarn, I'll get 20 skeins of yarn, and it'll be 15% off the individual price. So the 20% off bare yarns does not stack with the bulk yarn discount, but you can try a bunch of different yarns at a cheaper than the bulk price right now. So if you've been curious, now's like a really nice time to try it out. But I'll let you know whenever there's a big sale because I consider myself a stash enabler, and I love it when you guys pick yarn up to dye along with me. Other good places for yarn, sometimes wool to dye for. Sometimes they have like a trial set where you can get a 3-pack of 3 different of their yarns, but otherwise you usually have to commit to a larger order. There are, and I'll do an updated post with some other sites that you can also buy bare yarns, but Knit Picks is the one that I have been using since I started dyeing. So yeah, that's one that I share a lot. And now I have my affiliate links, so I get a little bit of credit for the sales, and so that's kind of fun. So the blanks, and also because some of you came late, the blanks are composed of 2 50-gram skeins of the Stroll fingering weight yarn. The yarn is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and so you'll get the identical skeins of sock yarn. And then this was the wool of the Andes bare yarn, the worsted weight wool of the Andes, and it's just 100 grams of 100% wool. Your best attempt at dyeing was a speckled yarn you did with a spray dye. Ooh, that sounds fun. I mean, I love the color mist sprays. Those are a ton of fun. And yeah, I'm looking into some other ways of applying dyes to yarn, and so there'll be, I think, some really fun things that'll start coming up in January. Yeah, so people can buy, oh yes, you can buy yarn and help me out at the same time, absolutely. But yeah, I will at some point also probably, I don't think I'll do another Kickstarter, people have been asking, but once I've fulfilled my Kickstarter obligations, I might set up a Patreon account or something. Or come up with a way to de-stash some of these yarns that I dye. Welcome! Alright, so thank you all so much for joining me. Actually, I feel weird about saying goodbye and then signing off and then having to walk around. So I'm going to flip this around. Okay. Thank you all so much for joining me today as we dyed the 2 sock blanks and then the bonus skein of yarn. I had a blast. I love your enthusiasm. I love, continue to share your pictures with me. You can tag me on Instagram. I don't use Twitter a lot, but if you tag me, I usually see it. And then you can also message me on Ravelry, or post things on the Facebook page. So I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day. And yeah, later this week when things are dry, I will share the finished dried yarns. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.